Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, May 16th, and it is very fitting that I am alone doing a solo segment for this show. Kenny and Peyton both had stuff come up with when we were recording this, had to wait for some news to drop. So it'll just be me reporting on it, and it is fitting that I'm alone because the news is unfortunate. Not a super eventful week in Mizzou athletics, but we did have the expected commitment of J.J. Andrews happen here. It was on Thursday afternoon, recording this Thursday evening. J.J. Andrews, he was down to Mizzou, Arkansas, some others in the mix there. And as you can see by his updated Rivals profile, he did pick Arkansas. So just kind of want to do a quick breakdown of that for you guys. Andrews, of course, 6'7" shooting guard. He was out of Little Rock Christian in Little Rock, Arkansas. He's a four-star. He's in the class of 2026. Would have been Mizzou's first edition in the class of 2026, but he did end up going with the Razorbacks. Probably a bit of a surprise for people who were maybe reading the Mizzou tea leaves, seeing a lot of the predictions. There was a lot put in favor of Mizzou late here. It seemed like Mizzou did a good job, and obviously his commitment to Arkansas doesn't take away from the fact that they did. J.J. Andrews, he took an OV to Mizzou in September, got all that stuff done very early. This is a very early commitment as well. And of course, you never know what things can happen, obviously, in basketball. It sometimes can be a little different than football in terms of how you continue to pursue committed guys when classes get smaller with the portal. And you can add guys in the transfer portal that's a more immediate need at the same position, takes the sort of pressure off recruiting. But all that to say, they could still choose to pursue Andrews here, Mizzou. But he did pick Arkansas. He is an Arkansas legacy. He is the son of Sean Andrews, who is an offensive lineman for the Razorbacks football team. Obviously, Little Rock Christian. He's got the in-state connections there. And, Coach Cal being in Arkansas now, it is going to have a large effect on recruits, particularly in-state. This was a guy he very clearly wanted. He's a talented kid. I've watched a little bit of film on him. He can score. He's a good presence inside on both ends, good in the dunker spot, has a lot of length. Obviously, he's young and will take a long time to develop, but a tough miss here for Mizzou and Mizzou men's basketball. He had some connections. I remember reading post that visit that it obviously went very well, and clearly it was. Mizzou was a finalist for him. But I remember reading post that visit, he found Dennis Gates' family, atmosphere very welcoming and vibed and connected with that really well. He knows Anwar Boateng, of course, another Arkansas product, a little bit pretty well, as I believe the words he put it. And so yeah, it does come as a surprise. Obviously, again, it is very early in the class of 2026 cycle, but it does, of course, hurt for Mizzou to miss out on a target, especially when that player ends up going to a rival in Arkansas. But Mizzou narrowly missing out on Andrews. He was could have been the first commit in the class of 2026. Mizzou, of course, those two pledges so far in 2025 that are coming in. And like I mentioned, to go back to that, you are going to see these classes start to shrink in general. It's just with the transfer portal and the nature of filling a already pretty small roster by comparison to football, you are going to see a lot smaller recruiting classes because teams, and Dennis is no exception, is going to go after guys in the portal. I still don't doubt Dennis Gates' recruiting prowess. I really think he knows what he's doing here. Clearly he was a finalist for Andrews. I think there will be plenty of other 2026 names to come up. And I say all that to mention a few. Shout out to Kenny. And obviously you guys should all follow Kenny. on social media and follow my rivals and stuff. He is very tapped into recruiting. Obviously, we'll get his word kind of as the cycle goes on some of these guys. But Mizzou is heavily linked to some other names. So J.J. Andrews, whilst the bummer, was not, of course, the only name and isn't the only name on Mizzou's board. And just to talk about a couple here, start with Ethan Taylor, super lengthy center. He's listed as 7'1". Kenny, I think, told Peyton and I off air is closer to 7'5", which is just wild. I'm out there, as you can see, in Shawnee, Kansas. So another, kind of geographical nearby area for there. You see some of the offers come in Indiana, Iowa, some of those Midwest blue chip-ish teams there trying to offer from him. I'll throw in some Kenny notes on him. He's still growing as a scorer, but described him as a big-time defender. Obviously has a lot of length there, so center to watch there in Ethan Taylor out there in Kansas, a good defender, 28th overall player there in the class of 2026. Took an unofficial visit, a couple of unofficial visits there in December as well as September. So that one to watch as well. A guy who I am 90% positive we have mentioned on this show before, another guy, shooting guard Aidan Chronister. We've talked about him. Another guy from Kansas out there at Sunrise Christian Academy, prep powerhouse, of course, out there in Bel Air, Kansas. This guy's been heavily talked about by a lot. I believe just picked up a couple visits. A bunch of coaches just went out to see him, including Mizzou. Dennis is very involved here. He is also an Arkansas legacy. Kenny wanted me to note that as well. So that's something to watch. Of course, you just miss out on that with Andrews. You have another guy here in Chronister, but a 6'8" guard, a lot of good length there. Potentially stretches the floor a little bit, and he is set notably, of course, to OV. He will OV in September, which again, to kind of go back to the Andrews timeline, shows how early he got a lot of that stuff done. I mean, he took it to his OV last September. You've got Chronister here coming in this upcoming September, so chance for Mizzou to really impress there. Obviously, some Arkansas or other schools involved include Arkansas with Cal. Him being a legacy, we'll see how hard they want to go after Chronister. Creighton, notable in there as well with Greg McDermott. They have a ton of pull there. So Aidan Chronister, that's definitely one to watch. And OV locked in for September. Another one to watch, another big here, Tristan Reed. Some might know his older brother, Terrace Reed. Terrace Reed played for Michigan State for a little bit, went over to UConn, was there last year. This is his younger brother, which is, kind of fun. He actually transferred just today to Link in Branson, Missouri. Of course, another big powerhouse in Missouri. No, not everyone who goes to Link is from Missouri or should go to Mizzou or has those connections. But this is a guy that has been linked to Mizzou. Kenny's talked to him a little bit before. Said he's a very lighthearted guy. Is obviously a good center at 6'9". You can look up the game of his older brother Terrace is a very skilled big himself at 6'9". So one to watch out of Link. I do like seeing Mizzou go after Link guys. It is nice when that program is kind of in your backyard. It's nice to try and at least be able to take advantage of that with some of the guys that come through there. But obviously, many of them aren't Missouri products per se. They just make their way to that school because it of course is a big one. 2 unofficial visits he's taken so far last fall, that as is a theme of a lot of these guys. And then kind of an emerging name I know that's come up recently is Toni Bryant out of North Tampa Christian in Wesley Chapel, Florida. 16th player nationally in the class of 2026 and has a Mizzou OV locked in. He is going to commit next March. He has that kind of timeline in place, locked in. Loves Dennis Gates, says he compares him to his own high school coach. Has really good length and is now kind of emerging as a top target here for Mizzou. And this one I know just kind of has come down the pipeline recently. Already has an OV locked in, which is of course good to see. And the key for him, per some intel, is just Mizzou being patient with his recruitment, and Mizzou has been so far, and that's a win. And also described as a very good kid per Kenny. I don't want to attest that I've spoken to him myself, but Kenny, of course, our resident recruiting expert. So some intriguing names to watch. Obviously, a lot of bigs there. You've got a common theme with just a ton of length that, of course, is an archetype I think that's not only popular in college basketball in general, but an archetype that Dennis Gates especially likes. That's what him and Leonard Hamilton identified in Florida and at Florida State. You can look up some of the guys who have gone to the league under their stewardship: Devin Vassell, Scotty Barnes, to name a few off the top of my head. Like, you want these, 6'6" through 6'10" guys who can be switchable and play multiple positions. Again, that's a lot to project for guys in the 2026 class right now, but Mizzou getting very active. And, it is a case. And, I know Kenny's talked about this before, where you can cast a wide net and you can go from prospect to prospect fairly quickly. You don't have to consider misses as massive misses anymore with being able to go in the portal. But it's good to see Mizzou linked to a lot of elite names still in the class of 2026. But the headliner here, of course, JJ Andrews, missing out, unfortunately, for the Tigers. He picks Arkansas, so it probably won't be the last that I suppose we hear of JJ Andrews if he suits up, or when he suits up for the Razorbacks heading in there in the class of 2026. But wanted to pop on and just talk about that, and mainly identify some of the next targets in that class for Mizzou men's basketball, because of course we talked about that commitment coming up in a not so busy week, which is maybe why Kenny and Peyton are off wherever they're off to, and have left me to shoulder the burden, and I happily do so for you humble and gracious viewers. I'm just kidding. They have their everyone's got their obligations, but they were with for quick hits, which we'll get to with the rest of the show. Have some other smaller news items thrown in as well, so stay tuned for that. We'll get to quick hits. Unfortunate news for JJ Andrews going to Arkansas. There's some 2026 players to watch, and we'll finish up the show with quick hits on the other side. Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show. We'll get Jersey of the Week to start. Kenny, what's your Jersey of the Week?
We never talked about Jackson Cantwell when he dropped Mizzou from his top list, when he trimmed it from 6 to 4, removing Michigan and Missouri. But he finally announced his commitment a little bit earlier than expected. He actually was planning for late April, then pushed it back 2 weeks to take an OV to Georgia. And it looked like he was going to go to Georgia, but he committed to Miami. He's going to be a Hurricane. He did that on Tuesday. I was a little bit surprised. A lot of the predictions and a lot of the national reporters were saying Georgia for a long time. In the last couple hours leading up to his commitment, it sounded like Miami was going to be the place. Good at NIL, good relationships, pretty fun place to be too in Miami. So kind of checked off all the boxes. And he loved Mirabal, the offensive line coach there, Cristobal as well, who also does a lot with offensive linemen. So it just seemed like the best fit for him. People will say like, oh, he could have played closer to home, played at his dad's alma mater at Missouri, but he always wanted to go somewhere else. And I talked to his mom about it, and she was, even like remembered from her Hall of Fame speech at SMU. She said, I know you've been brainwashed to go to Mizzou your entire life, but I hope you keep an open mind. She had no idea her son was going to be the number one player in the country 6 years later. So I think it's going to work out for him no matter what. He's a pretty good kid. He has a good head on his shoulders. And I think he'll figure it out once he gets to college.
I'm glad he didn't string Mizzou along. It kind of became pretty clear just in the past few months, really, that he was just not coming to Mizzou. Like you said, Kenny, it always seemed like he had his eyes outside the state is what it is. I am a little surprised it was Miami. Miami just, to me, is a very interesting fit. They're just, to put it bluntly, Miami is like a school that throws bags around a lot. I think that obviously is a big factor of what happened here. I'm not doubting the relationships or anything like that. But it just was a surprise to me that this is where he wound up. I always kind of deep down thought it was going to be Oregon. Interesting that Oregon really just didn't have any buzz by the end, really. But you never know. I mean, it didn't seem like the relationship was bad between him and Missouri. So if he ever does enter the portal, maybe something to keep an eye on. But I wouldn't hold my breath in this instance.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a bummer. It's a top guy that has been on everyone's radar for a long time. But yeah, Peyton, I think you make a good point. It's appreciative that Mizzou isn't strung along here. And hopefully, those relationships are maintained. You see Drinkwitz get so many of those guys from the home state on the back burner. I'm also not going to hold out hope for that. This is a really talented kid. But a kid also, as Kenny attested to, that I think, trusted his process and ends up in Miami. Yeah, a little bit of a surprise, but there you go. Jackson Cantwell, the number 1 player in the country, off the board. I am kind of grateful we don't have to have a saga for that, all the way to signing day. I'm sure Kenny is as well, considering how big of a name he is. But yeah, so Mizzou missed out on that, but we'll see how his career pans out at Miami. Peyton, what's your jersey of the week?
My jersey of the week, we're talking about Mizzou baseball again, and that's because Xavier Lovett, obviously the greatest Lovett in Mizzou history, was named to the SEC Baseball Community Service Team. The SEC announced that just on Wednesday, and if you go and read his entry, he's got his, he's got just ties to a whole bunch of causes. According to the SEC, he's logged extensive volunteer service with the Special Olympics, Mobility Worldwide, and Columbia Public Schools Alpha Heart Elementary. And he's been involved in numerous on-campus service activities. He's involved with Mizzou Baseball's Team Impact program, or just Mizzou's kind of like their version of it, which connects children with serious illnesses or disabilities with college athletics programs. So good on Xavier Lovett. I always love to see when athletes have deep ties to the community like that. Darius Robinson was another, obviously, probably the most notable example, who was just like as good a heart as you could find in the Columbia community. And also Xavier Lovett, I know it's been a tough year for Missouri. He's been one of their more trusted relievers. Since we last recorded, he actually pitched and helped Mizzou complete a 10-1 win over A&M, which was a sweep of the Aggies. So good for Xavier Lovett. Very cool to see him get that kind of recognition.
He also plays with the Tyler Macon. So there's your connection to
and Sam Horn himself.
Yeah. So many connections to that 2022 quarterback room.
Football callbacks. Yeah,
I have their signatures, and by that I mean only Tyler Macon's on this white helmet right here.
It's always cool to see players get recognized for the community service part too. It's obviously bigger than the sport. It's good to remember that. So good for Xavier. Love it. My jersey.
We're not moving forward just yet, guys.
Oh, that's right.
I have a bonus jersey. So if you'll remember last episode, Kenny brought up that the last Bears jersey I owned, probably will get Luther Burton's, but the last Bears jersey I owned was a dud. It was Mitch Trubisky, number 10, signed signature. He also mentioned that my grandma might have known the answer. My grandma, after watching our episode, texted me. She said, I didn't know the jersey you were talking about, but I do have a photo of you in a number 90 jersey. I don't know the name on it. I do know the name. I did look it up. I was pretty sure I knew who it was, and I now have confirmed that I do know who this was. So now I'm going to quiz you guys. This is a very notable player. Who was the player on the back of my jersey? Shout out to Grandma Clara for giving me the answer.
So it's a defensive lineman, Jack.
It's a number 90 Bears.
Oh, Kenny looked it up. Are you kidding?
No.
Sorry, you're
He's
right.
number 90.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I was going to assume it was a defensive lineman. I wasn't going to guess anything else.
From Kenny cheating on the Daily Dozen trivia.
Cheated once.
So Peyton, how old were you in this photo? Is that
Let me look up the exact years. I will say this is like probably a borderline Hall of Fame player. If not like a definite probably a definite Hall of Fame player. He played for the Bears from 2010 to 2013. So I was around 9.
I can't get Julius Peppers out of my head, but I don't think that's right.
Do you want to guess that? Kenny, you're muted, so we can't hear a word you're saying.
I think it was like 56 for Julius Peppers.
Okay, yeah.
Because he was a linebacker, wasn't he? Or was he an edge rusher?
He was like an edge rusher, I thought.
End linebacker, like OLB. Back when it wasn't true, like edge rusher. It was.
But I don't think he wore 90.
I think it would be like.
But it's someone who's a borderline
from that era, though.
I would honestly, looking at this guy's resume, say that he probably deserves to be a Hall of
Yeah,
Famer.
I'm trying
Then
to.
yeah, we should go Julius Peppers.
I mean, I'll guess Julius
Is it not
Peppers.
Peanut
There you
Houston?
go. Don't dance around it, fellas.
Okay.
It is Julius
Let's go.
Peppers. Julius Peppers wore 90 for the Chicago Bears. I was getting nervous that you weren't going to guess him when you said he wore 56. I was like, what?
I feel like that's always 2010s Bears edge rushers. That's the first I think of is Julius Peppers. He's a good player.
Yeah, he was a pretty good player for the Bears. Obviously a more noted Panther, but Julius Peppers, he was my favorite player for a little bit because I grew up in North Carolina, so I was obviously already familiar with Julius Peppers. And he went to play for my favorite team. So
I'm not that familiar with NFL. Like I'm always bad with NFL college connections, but he is one I always randomly remember that it's UNC. That's a
yep. He was a homegrown. So there you go. That was Grandma. That's the jersey that I have in that photo.
Great bonus quiz.
A lot of recruits use that photo of him in the UNC whenever they get an offer from the Tar Heels. I just think it's kind of fading away because I doubt many kids these days really know who Julius Peppers is. That keeps popping up. I do have breaking news. I just got a text that DeMonte Timms, 2026 safety, is decommitting from the University of Missouri.
Oh
man.
Yeah. So this, I mean, I will say like it's kind of writing on the wall. I mean, I do text like Gabe DeArmond over at Power Mizzou every now and then, and we kind of felt for a while this was probably going to happen. It just felt kind of his commitment came out of nowhere. He committed kind of pretty fast just after his first visit. Tigers are still looking at safeties. Jacob Yoro probably wants to sign 2 with how many guys he's bringing in and how they kind of missed on guys late in the 2025 class. So that's going to be something to kind of watch moving forward as they kind of target different safeties and different defensive backs.
So there you go. A little bit of breaking news on the show. Kenny's working his recruiting phones in real time. Yeah, that's obviously a bummer to miss out on any recruit, but part of the process naturally. So I guess we'll keep an eye on where Mizzou goes from safety. Back to our regularly scheduled quick hits program. I'll do my jersey of the week. I'm giving it to Tamar Bates. Tamar Bates, he was at the NBA G League Elite Camp, which is essentially a tryout for the actual NBA Draft Combine, which is going on from, I think it started yesterday, or no, it started on the 11th, excuse me. It goes to the 18th. It's like a whole long process, but Tamar Bates at the G League Elite Camp earned an invite to the NBA Draft Combine, which is very cool. Obviously a good recognition for him, someone who's going to be probably an unsigned or an undrafted guy, but could very much get picked up. And in fact, since that time, he has played in one of the scrimmages. Again, it goes till the 18th. I think the main day of stuff is Thursday when we're recording this. But he did play in a scrimmage on Wednesday. He had 17 minutes, didn't have an excellent outing, was only 1 for 6 from the field with 3 points, 1 rebound, and a steal. But very good to see him earning that chance to compete with some of the best guys in the draft. And, hopefully he's someone who very much could benefit from a good combine in terms of getting looks from teams. So, congrats to Mr. Bates for earning that honor.
Do we think he gets drafted, Jack?
No. I haven't seen him. Obviously the draft is a long way away, and you never know. With a player his age, there's some risks there. Just given, he's a score first guard. There's a lot of those in the draft, and he doesn't have necessarily the youthful upside, but I do think he will get a G League spot at the very least. He'll definitely get a summer league spot. I think teams will take a chance on him. But yeah, I don't know. There's obviously a lot that can happen between now and the end of June. So it would be great if he obviously ends up getting picked, but I think he will more likely be an unsigned or an undrafted signed out of free agency guy. But I think he can earn an opportunity in the G League. So we will have to see.
That's a shame. So much of a shame that Kenny decided to hop off right before the answer came on, and now we have switched screens. Interesting stuff. Moving on.
He just couldn't bear to hear.
Couldn't bear the sadness.
Bear the news that tomorrow probably won't get drafted. All right, main birds of the week. Kenny, what's your main bird of the week?
Oh my God, is this really his main bird of the week?
You got to present it for him.
Kenny's main bird of the week, not my main bird of the week. Kenny's main bird of the week is Matt Carpenter, Matt Carpenter, if you want to scroll up, Jack, I can I can read it there. Matt Carpenter has announced his retirement after 14 seasons. This comes from MLB. Of course, most notably a Cardinal, also had stints with the Yankees and Padres. I cannot tell you how much I despised Matt Carpenter. I am a Cubs fan. I did not like Matt Carpenter one bit. So thank goodness my nightmare is over.
Yeah.
Anything to add there, Jack?
I mean, I only know. I mean, I kind of understand that from your perspective, Peyton. I'm sure a lot of any Cardinals fans listening to this will have appreciated his services. I know he was there for a long time.
I'm sure they will.
It is very funny that you had to present this in Kenny's absence because, I know you're not a fan, but yes, Matt Carpenter, happy retirement. Congrats on a good career. Peyton, your main bird this week, sir.
My main bird of the week. We're gonna go to wrestling and a fun, maybe one of the most notable names that's come through Mizzou wrestling, Keegan O'Toole. He is going to stick at Mizzou as an assistant coach. He is Mizzou wrestling announced this week that he was added to the coaching staff. Is he just an assistant? Can you scroll down? What was the
assistant?
Wrestling, yeah, just a straight assistant coach, which obviously someone like him would be very capable of teaching the next generation of youth wrestlers. So,
yeah, this is super cool, I think. And again, it goes to we've had so much conversations about like GMing and other and former Tigers getting involved with their programs. I think it's really cool to see that. Obviously, spreads to every sport and wrestling included in that. So good to see for Keegan to be involved with the staff. I'm sure that'll give a recruiting bump too, knowing you could play for Coach O'Toole and learn under a guy who's that successful. So very cool for Mizzou wrestling. My main birds of the week, I'm giving it to the Baltimore Ravens. It is actually, I'm bummed Kenny had to depart for this part because he will appreciate this, Peyton. I know you haven't watched the show, but we're gonna have more schedule talk too, I know, with your best thing. But I wanted to shout out the Ravens and their creative team. So the NFL schedule came out. Or all the schedules came out on Wednesday. It's kind of the Super Bowl for teams, media teams. Teams get super creative with like how they announce all the games. And the Ravens, I don't know if there are any Severance watchers who also watch our show, but if there are, they will have appreciated this. The Ravens did a Severance kind of themed schedule announcement, and it's really well done. Like the production value is insane considering they were using like their players and coaches involved as like the actors, and they recreated a bunch of the scenes from the show and did it with their schedule. It was super cool. I have to give a massive shout out. Peyton, I don't know if you have anything to add here. I know you haven't watched the show, but this was sick to see.
I haven't seen the show, but every year a lot of teams get real creative with this type of stuff. There were a lot of Minecraft ones this year. I think that's almost certainly because these schedules got sent to the creative teams right around the time Minecraft came out. The Chargers, every year they have a good one that continued this year. They had funny skits in Minecraft. They had the Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport fight in there. They had Tyreek Stevenson turning around to the crowd.
That was hilarious.
Very, very fun one. I didn't watch the Titans, but people were buzzing about the Tennessee Oilers one. So that I'll have to go tune in for that one. We will talk about the Bears as well, just because it's my team and Luther Burden plays for them. But in fact, why don't we just head there right now?
Why don't we just do that right now?
Yeah, right now.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Luther Burden's first game really is going to be on primetime football, folks. That's right. It's not Caleb Williams' second year or Ben Johnson's first year. Luther Burden's first game comes against the Minnesota Vikings, 7:15 on September 8th. That is Monday Night Football for you folks. I don't know if they're doing the dueling week one this season. I don't think they are like they have been in the past couple of years. So I think this will be on its own.
Yeah, I think isn't Eagles, aren't they doing no, it's Chiefs.
They're doing a Brazil game, which I think takes that away.
Okay. So there you go.
But there you go. Luther Burden's first game. Armand Membu's first game. I don't know when it is. I didn't look up the Jets schedule. Sorry.
I did not. I also did not look up.
The Bears also did do a creative video. This is just for a tweet.
Right.
It's easy to consume.
You got to do it now. It's the standard. But yeah, Luther against the in-division rival. He'll play a couple of those too, because it looks like they play the Lions second. Peyton, how do you feel about I won't Rich Eisen you, Peyton, but you look at the schedule. What's the Bears record going to be this year?
Bears record is going to be 6-11.
Oh, okay. That's a realistic. I can respect that.
Yep.
Is that good progress for you in year one?
Nope.
Under Ben Johnson?
Not at all.
Okay.
It would be really bad.
So we'll just go bad to go bad. All right. Well, hopefully Luther can be a silver lining of the season. Kenny, what's the best thing you learned this week?
Best thing Kenny learned this week is that Mizzou and Mississippi State are going to be doing battle on the baseball diamond this weekend. And someone Kenny knew in high school, he played Xbox with, Stone Simmons, a pitcher for Mississippi State, is coming to town the same weekend that friend of the show, Zach, who Kenny also played Xbox with, graduates. Kenny will also be in Columbia this weekend to see Zach graduate, and Stone will be in Columbia as well, but he'll be potentially pitching for the Bulldogs. Stone Simmons, Kenny told me, like, he had like a 3-year recovery from like just really brutal injuries to get back on the diamond. So cool moment. I think he almost certainly is out of eligibility, in his last SEC regular season series will be in Columbia, where 2 of his Xbox pals will also be.
That is a nice meeting of the minds. Shout out to Kenny and Stone Simmons, and yeah, shout out to him for the comeback he's made. I was reading a little article on Mississippi State's website about it. He definitely went through kind of the ringer there to get back, but good to see that he'll be back on the bump. Hopefully he gets a chance to pitch a little bit in his final series, like you said, Peyton. My best thing I learned this week, we've been doing these kind of announcements when they come out for the men's basketball team. Huh?
Because we're lazy.
Sean Phillips Jr. officially signed. I think it's a good reminder of, when they're a good reminder of who the new transfers are. You got to get it out. But
yep.
Sean Phillips signed, of course, the
good thing Mizzou basketball plays next week, so people definitely won't forget about him before then.
Oh, I'll find an excuse to do it again. Don't you worry. But Sean Phillips, 7-foot big, from Arizona State, transferred, has signed with Mizzou, about 3.5 points and 5.5 rebounds a game last year with the Sun Devils. So a potential big. We'll have more lineup discussions too as we get into close to the thick of Mizzou men's basketball. I'm intrigued by what you're thinking, Peyton, as obviously the roster still has to kind of get fully set, but.
I think it probably is at this point. I'll be honest.
It might be. Yeah. The longer we go, the less likely it probably is that a transfer comes in. But there you go. That's the show. Kenny's off playing Minecraft with the Chargers. Peyton, do you have a joke for us?
I do. Jack.
Yes, Peyton?
Where does a sheep go to get a haircut? This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show, by the way.
Oh, Peyton. But of course it goes to the barber.
Yes, the barber shop. The barber shop.
Yeah. Good one.
There you go. Almost like you're in Boston saying it.
Barber. Mm-hmm. The barber. All right. That'll do it. Hopefully, we don't have any quick hits, major motion next time. It was funny timing. With
Kenny's got house things. Very, very important stuff.
Homeowner. No, he's not. But anyway, that's it for the Unwritten Rule. Hope you enjoyed. We will see you next time.